This is Jeffrey Lillehardwin. This is part 4 of the Kingdom of Sweden campaign. We were left in Bohemia, where the Siebenbürgen had caused a rebellion at Iglau. And we are in the year of 1623, in the month of July. Sweden is now 6th in the rankings overall. And we will follow the Swedish campaign in this 4th part until the March of 1626, nearly 3 years of campaigning. In these 3 years we will witness 2 major battles and several smaller ones, of which the first one will be this one between Jacob Ramsay and some rebels near Marienburg. In the process we will see the development of the Swedish positions and their consolidation on the southern coast of the Baltic. There was nothing worth writing home about this battle. The enemy captain was killed, the army was routed, and here we're seeing the last parts of the battle with the Swedish cavalry hunting down the enemy routers.
This is a clear victory that goes to only men of great virtue and valor.
One of the many victories Jacob Ramsay won in this war, with only 39 casualties. The enemy, the rebels, lost over 1,000 men. Many were slain by the musketeers, the rest by the cavalry. The melee units saw no action. The celebrations of that battle had hardly ended when a second group of marauders appeared, and this time our glorious King Gustav Adolf landed from Duchy with an army and took the battle to the rebels. So the battle took place again outside Marienburg, and using similar tactics based on musketeers, followed up by cavalry charges, the enemy rebels were routed. And here once again you see the final phases of the battle, with the Swedish cavalry collecting prisoners.
This is a clear victory that goes to only men of great virtue and valor.
Gustav Adolf won another stunning victory. The enemy lost 2,500 men, while the Swedish lost only 88 men. Most of the victory was down to the skillful use of the musket by the dragoons and Marquis musketeers. And here are some of the attributes of Gustav Adolf the Conqueror: a proven commander, intelligent, conquering hero, religiously minded, religious, colonel of cavalry, stone-faced, cruel leader, convincing, and so on. A war has been declared between the Duchy of Bavaria and the Old Swiss Confederacy. The conquered towns continue to be built up. Sweden now is 5th overall, about 38% of the strength of Austria. The Austrians are now besieging Cottbus, or at least they're interested in it. Here's the frontier in the south of Bavaria, and the Siebenbürgen are still outside Iglau. They're still in the hands of rebels. Elbing continues to be built up. The Turks have re-invaded the imperial dominions. Still 5th overall, and another minor battle against rebels that was easily won.
As completed, Your Majesty.
So another clear victory with minimal casualties. Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth now besieged Duchy, that is defended by Gustav Adolf. A certain Captain Haquin comes to his aid with a relief force. A battle ensues that ends in a draw in principle, with the defenders losing only 12 men, the attackers losing 2,000. And that caused the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth army to withdraw. You can see the huge numbers of casualties caused by musket fire from the walls by the musketeers of the garrison. We have another master of diplomacy among our diplomats. Now Sweden is fourth overall, 41% of the strength of Austria, and the Ottomans have conquered a city, an imperial city, and now they are impinging into the empire. Hesse agrees to finance the Swedish campaign in Poland, Lithuania, and Gustav Adolf takes his army to the task and attacks the Polish force outside Duchy. A quick battle ensues in which Captain Vladislav is killed and his army is routed with very minimal casualties on the Swedish side. In Sweden itself, there are minor rebellions, presumably of Danish citizens. This one is also crushed with relatively few casualties. And the strength of Sweden rises. Karlstad is the city that the Ottomans won in their raids into the empire. Bavaria has won Trier back from the Swiss. And here are the rankings. Austria and the Catholic League lead the rankings, followed by the Protestant Union, followed by Sweden, and Brunswick and Bavaria close by. Here are the territorial rankings. They are more close. And the population rankings, Protestant Union is bigger on population. Here is the situation near Denmark. Bremen control Lauenburg and Eutin, while Prussia Brandenburg have managed to get Lübeck from the Protestant Union. The Kingdom of Sweden is now fourth overall, nearly 50% of the strength of Austria, and here's what happened following that capture of Trient by Bavaria. The Old Swiss Confederacy has become vassals of Bavaria and have signed a truce with the Catholic League and Austria. There were not many battles for Sweden this year. However, one thing that you will notice is that Sweden now is controlling Stettin and Pomerania. It was bought from the Protestant Union. You will also see on the map on the lower left-hand corner that Prussia Brandenburg have taken the southern part of Denmark. They went to war with Denmark. And Denmark eventually fought back and took that part back from them. Sweden sided with Denmark and took Rostock from Prussia Brandenburg. Eventually a truce was signed and peace was signed between Denmark and Prussia and Sweden. And in the process, Prussia sold Kiel to the Austrians, and so now the Austrians were on the south border of Denmark, and it was the year of 1624, and almost historically a war was about now to start between the Emperor and Denmark. It is November of 1623, and there is another uprising in Prussia of rebel Ukers. The uprising was easily quelled by the garrison of Königsberg. Sweden is now third overall, and one of our diplomats has made it to Holland, where he found to his dismay Nimwegen in the hands of the Spanish, with the Dutch outside ready to lay siege to it. Our Council of Nobles proposed the assassination of one of the enemy generals, but our few assassins were always busy safeguarding the lives of our merchants, and these missions were never taken up. There's a war declared between the Catholic League and the Union of Utrecht. The cities in Prussia continue to be built up. Various events, good mostly for our generals and other characters. Sweden remains third overall in the winter of 1623-24, as the Polish-Lithuanian army dares to lay siege on Stettin. Gustav Adolf comes to the relief of the city with a strong force. The enemy is defeated, with minimal casualties once again, and the prisoners are ransomed by the Poles. Our diplomat in Holland, Bogislav von Salm-Neuheville, is happy to report that the Dutch have taken Nimwegen back. Sweden is third overall at 50% of the strength of Austria, and as you can see from the little map on the lower left-hand corner, Rostock now belongs to Sweden, so much of the southern coast of the Baltic is now in the hands of Sweden, and Sweden is now preparing for a campaign against Austria. Adam of Pfalz-Zimmern fights a battle against rebels in the area of Rostock, which he wins with very minimal casualties. The building up of the newly conquered cities continues. Sweden still third overall. Another battle against rebels, this time in the vicinity of Rostock. This battle is also very easily won. Yet another battle, this time in Sweden against some probably Danish rebels, also relatively easily won. Inexplicably, hostilities have ceased between Austria and Baden. More buildings are finished in our conquered cities. Sweden is still third overall. Adam of Pfalz-Zimmern fights yet another battle against rebels, which he wins without casualties. It is May of 1625, and very much as in real history, the imperialists are in Lübeck, which they seem to have purchased from Prussia Brandenburg. One of our faction members, Georg von der Flinge, is married. Hesse makes an alliance with Brunswick. On the other hand, upset by recent events, Prussia Brandenburg is now sitting on a fence, making peace with its old enemy, Poland-Lithuania. A dry dock is built in Kalmar, and the Kingdom of Sweden now is fourth overall, still at around about 50% of the strength of Austria. Petrus Ovspaare is now a master of diplomacy, and now starts the first of the two big battles of part 4 of the campaign. It is a battle against some rebels near Königsberg. The rebels are mostly units of cavalry. Among them is a good number of Junkers. Our general Johannes Bereuter has formed his army into the usual Swedish formation. You can see the two brigades, and here on the far left he has placed some dragoons in an offset position, forming a kind of V shape in relation to the rest of the army, and they are being backed up by pikemen. This puts the enemy into a disadvantage, since they are now being shot in the flank by the rest of the army. They decide to finish off the dragoons. They charge them, The pikemen move up, they move forward, they engage the cavalry in melee. They are being hard pressed, but they seem to be doing well. Seeing that the cuirassiers and the arquebusiers are making no progress against the pikemen on the left, the Junkers now charge. The charge is not particularly effective. They get stuck in melee. More Junkers, you can see them in the distance, are charging the main line. Here they're charging some pikemen. As you can see, it's another relatively unsuccessful charge. They managed to kill some musketeers, but they get pinned down by the pikemen. The musketeers fall back. Here's the company on the left. They've pinned down Junkers, they've pinned down arquebusiers and cuirassiers that are here. They're being attacked in the rear. They are still holding their ground. What a fantastic stand of pikes. And even the charge, the cavalry with their pikes, an amazing company. And so the Polish seem to have bitten more than they can chew within. So here's the main line. The Junkers are cycling their charges. You can see one company there in the rear. They're falling back. They have been hit by fireworks.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Fireworks was the word used at the time for grenades. There are some enemy sailors here. More fireworks thrown at the enemy Junkers. Another of the charges is broken. They attempted to charge some musketeers, but it didn't work out. The pikemen are moving forward to block further charges against the musketeers. Here they pin down a group of Junkers, and the Junkers had it. They are falling back. They will reform, so the remaining cavalry there, the remaining cavalry will reform, and they will attempt one last charge. Here are some arquebusiers are coming here to fire at the main line, and behind them,
The enemy army flees the field. Pursue and run them down.
behind them the Junkers attempted to charge, but it was just not working out for them, and they're retreating. The battle is won. The enemy is in full rout. Johannes Per Euter has won a decisive victory against the rebels.
All of Christendom will be awed by the victory we have won here today.
And here are the results. We lost 362 men, killed 1263, mostly cavalry. And our musketeers did a great job. They killed hundreds of the enemy cavalry, breaking the will of the enemy. We return to the campaign map, where we can see Christian IV, the King of Denmark, ready to confront in an aggressive way the Catholics that are impinging on Denmark from the south. In the meantime, also the Duchy of Brunswick is caught in a war with Austria. Bavaria is holding most of Franconia. France and the Archbishopric of Trier are fighting over Kaiserslautern, currently in the hands of the French. The Protestant Union is holding Schweinfurt, and Franconia, Hesse, Schmalkalden, and an army of the Duchy of Brunswick has come to their aid. The Turks are besieging Klagenfurt in Austria. The Austrians have taken finally Iglau. Siebenbürgen are retreating northwards. Austria and the Catholic League are leading the faction rankings. Albrecht Wallenstein is appointed general under the Emperor, there he is, to put together an army to fight with Denmark. Hostilities cease between Denmark and Prussia Brandenburg at last officially. Kingdom of Sweden also allies now with Prussia Brandenburg, so hopefully we can bring them back to our fold. Sweden is still 4th overall, 50% the strength of Austria, and Trier have actually taken Kaiserslautern from the French. The French are retreating. Instead of marching to Denmark, Wallenstein's army seems to have been diverted to Iglau to protect it from the returning Transylvanians. And so Christian IV of Denmark declares war. The Spanish also respond in kind as allies of the Kaiser. There's war declared now between Denmark, Norway, and the Emperor. For a strange reason, also hostilities cease between Holland and the Catholic League. In the actual 30 Years' War, when the war broke out between Denmark and the Kaiser, Sweden was engaged in Poland and could not help. So this time around, the garrisons of the conquered cities are strengthened by local troops to free up the Swedish units for the war against Austria. The Union of Utrecht is now in the top 5, and there is another battle against rebels near Marienburg. The battle is easily won with the loss of only 25 men. More building up in the conquered cities and in Sweden. And Sweden is 3rd overall, at around about 50% of the strength of Austria. And here is the second major battle of this part of the campaign. Having spent the last year consolidating his positions rather than fighting, Gustav Adolf has become a watcher from a conqueror. He marches eventually south, and a Polish-Lithuanian army meets him outside Deutsch Krone. The Polish-Lithuanian army under Philip von Boeselager it consists mainly of cavalry and some musketeers. The Swedish army that you can see here is deployed in the Swedish formation. This looks particularly nice in this view.
Good tidings. The enemy general lies dead. We've sent the base curtain down.
The enemy general, Philip von Boeselager, is slain at the very start of the battle, and the outcome of the battle is now a foregone conclusion. Since both armies consist mainly of musketeers, the battle will be won from a distance. Here is the White Brigade musketeers firing from a distance, and here is a group of Polish musketeers. There is a huge difference between the orderly way that the Swedes have been deployed and the bunched up and confused way the Poles are deployed. The reason for that is that although the AI army was originally deployed in a proper formation, the AI insists in marching forward, and the companies get in each other's way and formation is lost. The Polish occasionally try to send some of their cavalry forward, but they are being shot with volleys from the distance, and they just retreat before they even come near to charge the Swedish lines. So the Swedish lines got hardly ever charged during this battle. Here's the very end of the right wing, right of the right-hand brigade. There are commanded musketeers. You can see two companies there. One in the center is the lifeguard of Gustavus, and this one is company of Blue Brigade musketeers. They're being backed up by reiters, you can see there, and combined the commanded musketeers and the reiters turn away the enemy cavalry. The second enemy commander, Captain Uściwoj, or something like that, is slain, and now the enemy is in full retreat. Gustavus Adolphus here is doing his usual thing. He leads the cavalry into a charge of the enemy, and the enemy is now in full rout. He is collecting prisoners with the cavalry. The battle is practically over.
This is a clear victory that goes to only men of great virtue and valor.
Another glorious victory for our great leader. With a loss of only 56 men, he destroyed the entire Polish army. The battle was decided by musket fire. One of the companies of the Blue Brigade musketeers killed 349 men. The prisoners were ransomed, and Gustav Adolf walked into Deutsch Krone, that now became part of the Swedish Empire.
Yes, sir. Moving to crush the enemy. Such is the fate of all who oppose us. Victory! These people now kneel before us, my lord.
Here's another interesting event introduced by Monty. Mother Courage was a character, I believe, from one of Bertolt Brecht's plays, and she was given a small donation by the king, and she responds, "Hail to you, my lord, receive my blessing of Mother Courage." It is October of 1625. The Danish are now besieging the Austrians in Lübeck, while the Swedish towns in Prussia have been strengthened with local militia. Sweden is still third overall. Utrecht Union is still fifth in the overall rankings. Austria is well ahead militarily after hiring Wallenstein to beef up the army. In terms of production, Austria and the Catholic League are leading the rankings. In terms of territories, the various factions have more or less stabilized, they've reached a kind of equilibrium. In terms of financial ranking, that doesn't have any implications really. The Ottomans and the Siebenbürgen are leading since they have nothing to spend their money on, while the population seems to be increasing almost everywhere despite the war. Our diplomats to the King of Denmark report that the Danes have dissolved the siege of Lübeck. They have retreated, may return. As you can probably tell, there are preparations to move the Swedish armies west to help the Danish, who indeed have returned to Lübeck, but are not laying siege to it. Rostock has now a West India Company guild, and this is a strange thing that happened. Somehow Austria and Denmark are now approaching each other, and they're about to sign a peace or a truce, and so Austria now is breaking ranks with the other Catholic factions. Thanks to the efforts of our Chancellor, Axel Oxenstierna, the strength of Sweden is rising, now 58% of the strength of Austria. And Mainz has been destroyed. That's a strange thing. How did that happen? I went back one game turn to a previous save and removed the fog of war. As you can see, there are several strong Mainz armies, and Mainz and Aschaffenburg were in the hands of Mainz, and suddenly everything has gone rebel. What probably happened is, if you can see on the upper right hand corner, their faction leader in his hunting lodge probably went rebel, and that probably caused the entire faction to rebel. Here is Iglav again. The Transylvanians are facing off Wallenstein with his massive army. The Turks are on a rampage in Austria, and this is the situation in the south of Denmark. the Danish have at least succeeded in taking Lauenburg from Bremen, and there is an arrangement with the King of Denmark for a subsidy in exchange for an attack on Austria, in the hope that the Danish king will continue his war against Austria. Yet another battle against yet another marauding army near Marienburg. Perhaps former mercenaries from the dissolved and defeated armies of the several battles are now on a rampage in that area. The battle is easily won with only 26 men lost. There is now a distance trade guild in Deutsch Krone. Our cities continue to be built up. The strength of Sweden now is 59% of the strength of Austria. And finally, Denmark takes Lübeck with a little bit of a help from the Swedish army. More building up. The strength of Sweden now is 63%, the strength of Austria. And yet another face-off between Denmark and Bremen at Eutin. And this, what is this? We have cancelled our alliance with the Protestant Union. Why is that? You will find out in the next installment in Part 5. Thank you for watching this Part 4 of the campaign.